If betrayal had a flavor, mine tasted like rotten cranberry sauce disguised by cinnamon. My name is Marcy Davenport, and before I pour out this Thanksgiving disaster, tell me in the comments, what time is showing on your clock? And from which city are you watching? Your answers will remind me I'm not alone while I reopen a wound still throbbing under my Sunday dress. I was already shelling walnuts for my lonely holiday pie when Sandra, my only child, finally called. The clock read 10 past 11 on Thanksgiving morning. Her voice came brittle, the way ice crusts over a shallow pond. Mom, I suppose you can come over after all if you want. If I want? Honey, I'd spent 2 nights praying she'd remember I exist. Dinner's at 4, she added, and the line went dead faster than a mercy kill. I smoothed my gray curls and told myself grudges had no place at a thankful table. Still, a tremor rattled the pie pan. My late husband, Calvin, and I had bought that very house for Sandra and her husband, Miles, when the interest rate scared them stiff. We pictured grandchildren tumbling through its hallway. Calvin passed before any laughter filled those rooms, but his memory kept the mortgage afloat. I clung to that thought while stacking my pecan caramel creation in the passenger seat, buckling it like a toddler. At 3:58, I knocked. Miles opened the door wearing a smile so thin you could read a newspaper through it. Behind him, the living room looked Instagram perfect, white pumpkins, faux gold leaves, and scented candles that stank of artificial gratitude. Yet no one offered to take my coat. Sandra appeared in a mauve cashmere sweater, hugging herself like she'd rather embrace empty space than me. Her greeting was a single syllable. Mom. I followed the aroma of turkey, though something in the air felt off. A sour note beneath the sage. Sandra kept glancing at my pie as if it were a stray dog tracking mud. When we finally sat, Miles carved the bird with the flair of a TV chef. He served me first, a generous helping of stuffing, mashed sweet potatoes, and slices of turkey meat that glistened under the chandelier. But the moment the fork touched my tongue, alarms rang. The turkey carried a faint yet unmistakable tang of spoilage, like milk gone a day too far. The sweet potatoes were grainy, gritty even, as though sugar had fermented inside them. I swallowed, throat tightening. Could it be an accident? I tasted water, metallic. My stomach churned. Across the table, Sandra stared at her phone, thumbs tapping as if dinner were background noise. Miles raised his glass. To family, no matter the distance, he said, eyes never meeting mine. Every guest echoed, glasses clinked. I forced a smile, praying my gut would quiet. 10 minutes later, nausea clawed upward, cheeks flushing hot. Sandra's youngest, Zoe, pointed. Grandma, why's your face funny? The whole table paused. Miles cocked a brow. Yeah, Mom, something wrong? Air tasted of vinegar. I think the turkey might be off. My words came out thinner than tissue. Sandra's nostrils flared. There's nothing wrong with our food. I dabbed sweat from my lip. It just tastes spoiled. She slammed her napkin. You always find a flaw, don't you? Miles stood, voice dripping faux concern. If you're sick, you should probably go. Dizziness blurred the chandelier into a halo of jagged light. I pushed back my chair, clutching my pie dish like a shield. As I reached the foyer, Sandra followed, whisper hissing. You couldn't give me one perfect holiday. Outside, wind knifed through my coat. I took a shaky step onto the porch, then something whistled past my ear. Thwack! My caramel pecan pie exploded against the railing, shards of crust skittering across planks. I wheeled around. Sandra stood in the doorway, empty plate in hand. Take your spoiled attitude with you, she spat. Miles pulled her inside, door slamming like a gavel. For a second, I just listened to my heartbeat, irregular, panicked. My vision dimmed. knees folding to wet leaves. Somewhere between porch lights and December's early chill, I wondered, what sin could earn such deliberate cruelty from my own flesh and blood? The answer hid 20 years behind me, waiting like frost under fallen leaves, ready to bite as soon as I turned over the right memory. Stay with me, because the question that kept me awake all night will unravel more than a family tradition. It will claw open secrets no feast can keep buried. Cold pavement bit through my tights as I knelt among caramel-slick pecans and shards of tin. Streetlights cast jaundiced halos, turning each broken crust flake into a tiny warning sign. Turn back, Marcy. But where was back? Calvin's graveyard plot? The 2-room apartment I downsized into after selling our farmhouse to help Sandra tighten mortgage screws? Neither felt like back. Both felt like exile. I gathered what fragments my numb fingers could manage, dropping them into the grocery bag that had once kept the pie warm. Sticky filling glued to my gloves, a grotesque parody of holiday glue that's meant to hold families together. I staggered toward my blue Corolla. My stomach heaved again, bile blending with the aftertaste of rancid turkey. I buckled in, pressed my forehead to the steering wheel, and prayed the nausea would wait 30 suburban blocks. Halfway home, the dashboard blurred, taillights smeared into red comets. I cracked the window, sucking frigid air, and hauled the car to the shoulder. Breaths rasped. Please, God, not another heart scare. I'd buried Calvin after his 5th infarction. The memory still rattled my nerves like loose china. When my pulse steadied, I drove the final miles in first gear, hazard lights blinking a Morse code of distress no one answered. Inside my apartment, still smelling of cinnamon potpourri I'd set for company who never comes, I collapsed onto the sofa. The silence felt sharp, like the moment after a mirror shatters. I pictured Sandra's expression. Contempt mixed with something else, fear, shame. Either way, it carved deeper than Miles's smirk. I flipped on the kitchen light and forced myself to inventory symptoms. Mild chest tightness, lingering nausea, dizziness ebbing. The nurse hotline advised electrolytes and monitoring. I brewed peppermint tea and perched by the window, watching November wind bully skeletal branches. Each gust rattled loose another leaf. Little brown bodies flinging themselves from safety. Just like me, I thought. Hours crawled. At 2:30 a.m., phone pinged, a single text from Clara. You okay? Sandra's post blowing up Facebook, my fingers fumbled. I opened the app. Sandra's timeline lit the screen. A photo of my pie splattered on the porch rail, captioned, "Some people only bring bitterness to the table. Sometimes you have to throw it back." Comments ballooned. Good for you, girl. Toxic is toxic, even if it's family. OMG, was she drunk? Parents can be such guilt trippers. 100 thumbs up by strangers who'd eat the story like pumpkin cheesecake without tasting its mold. I trembled, part rage, part heartbreak. The image stitched itself into my mind, an immortal gif of rejection. I typed a reply, deleted it, typed again. At last I wrote only, I love you, even when you're unkind. Hovered over send, then locked the screen. Public spats feed trolls. I needed answers, not likes. But first came survival. I swallowed aspirin, crawled into bed, and tried counting gratitudes like sheep. My health mostly intact. Clara's loyal worry, a job at the thrift boutique that still gave my days shape. Yet each blessing felt like a paper roof under acid rain. Sleep splintered into feverish flashes. Sandra at age 8, slipping a hand into mine during the church pageant. Teenage Sandra slamming doors and blasting grunge. College Sandra sobbing over tuition forms I later maxed a credit card to pay. Between visions, Miles's voice slithered. Better donors than mothers. I jerked awake, nails crescenting my palm. Dawn seeped gray through blinds. I brewed coffee strong enough to stand a spoon. My gut still twisted. I replayed dinner frame by frame, Miles carving turkey, the sour smell, Sandra's phone fixation. Could the spoilage have been deliberate? A prank? No. Miles ran a catering side hustle. Food safety was his gospel. Unless they'd known it was off and served it anyway, counting on my polite compliance. An internal wince at the dark theory, poisoned by neglect rather than knife. I opened the freezer, searching for ice to ease stomach cramps, and paused. Inside, neatly wrapped, lay last year's Thanksgiving leftovers. I'd intended to make soup for Sandra's family that winter, but never got the chance. The symbolism tightened my throat. I slammed the door. Something had rotted long before yesterday's turkey. I dialed Clara. She answered on the first ring. "Marcy, you need to see a doctor. You look ghost white on that porch photo." "I'll schedule an appointment," I promised, though I heard the wobble in my voice. "But first, why does my daughter hate me?" "Could be Miles's influence," Clara sighed. "Could be something else." "What else?" An exhale crackled over the line. "Remember the letter Calvin left for Sandra, the one he made you swear to give her when she turned 30? My pulse lurched. I'd hidden that envelope deep in my cedar chest, fearing its contents could toxic spill our fragile bond. "Sandra's 30th birthday is next week. Clara, you never read it." "But Calvin hinted it was big," she lowered her voice. "Maybe she found it on her own. Miles was helping sort the attic last month." A chill wormed under my skin. I had guarded that envelope for 16 years, too afraid to open it myself. If Miles uncovered it and twisted its message... The thought cracked something inside my rib cage. Clara spoke gently. "Secrets ripen, Marcy." Eventually they burst. I thanked her and hung up. Heartbeat drumming Morse again. I strode to the bedroom, knelt before the cedar chest and lifted its lid. Calvin's handwriting surfaced on cream stationery sealed with brittle wax. My hands shook so violently the letter fluttered like a wounded bird. I pressed it to my chest, breathing in cedar and dust and dread. Don't step away now, because whatever Calvin wrote could explain the poison, the pie, and the sudden cruelty. But opening that seal might cost me more than a daughter. It might rewrite every memory I've used to survive. The envelope trembled like a metronome set to anxiety. Calvin's looping script. For Sandra, on her 30th birthday, looked older than the cedar grains framing it. I sliced the wax with the paring knife and unfolded 3 pages. My vision tunneled, each paragraph hissing louder than Thanksgiving's spoiled turkey. "Dearest Sandra, if you're reading this, the calendar says 30 and your mother trusted the time was right. The truth I carry is heavy. I pray it lands in your heart like seed, not stone. You were not born to Marceline. You were born to Lila, my younger sister whom the world chewed up too soon. When Lila died in childbirth, your mother stepped forward, arms wider than fear, and raised you as her own because I was drowning in grief. We chose silence to protect you from gossip that could reduce your life to a headline, baby of fallen addict. Marceline sacrificed more nights, more dreams than I can count. Promise me, daughter, that when this truth reaches you, you'll measure her love by deeds, not blood. With love that outlives breath, Dad." The words blurred. Lila, sun-haired, soft-spoken, always humming folk songs, and the needle tracks she hid beneath bracelets. Memories snapped into place. Calvin slipping out at dawns to visit old friends, his haunted eyes each March, Lila's birth month. I remembered cradling newborn Sandra while Calvin sobbed apologies into my hair. I reread the lines about protecting Sandra from cruel gossip. My pulse thudded. If Miles found this first, he wouldn't protect, he'd exploit. He could spin it as lifelong betrayal, fuel for Sandra's simmering resentments. And if Lila's addiction history trickled onto social media, Miles could cast me as manipulator who hid junkie DNA. Phone buzzed. Clara again. "You open it?" "Yes," I whispered, explained in ragged breaths. Clara cursed softly. "Miles is a snake, but he didn't force the silence. What's your move?" I stared at the swirling pattern of the cedar chest lining. I have to tell Sandra everything, my way, not via Facebook lava. But fear beat inside my ribs like a loose shutter. What if honesty simply douses gasoline onto her anger? First, health. I scheduled an urgent care visit. EKG clear. Doctors blamed stress for palpitations and prescribed beta blockers. "Avoid emotional shocks," he said, oblivious to the manuscript folded in my purse. Outside, wind flurried dead leaves down Maple Street like frantic confetti. I drove to Sandra's neighborhood, parking a block away to calm nerves. Through their bay window, I spotted Miles, pacing, phone glued to ear, free hand slicing the air. Sandra stood rigid, arms crossed, my gut twisted, spoiled turkey déjà vu. I texted, "Need to speak privately? Life-changing truth, please." 3 dots appeared, vanished, then, "Come in 20 minutes, Miles will take kids to park." I waited, counting heartbeats. 23 minutes later, Miles herded Zoe and little Patrick into the SUV. As it roared off, I approached the door that had slammed against me yesterday. Sandra opened. Eyes ringed crimson. Smell of bleach and citrus replaced yesterday's candle fakery. A scent of scrubbing away shame. My voice quavered. "May we sit?" She led me to the den. No Thanksgiving decor remained. I handed her Calvin's letter with trembling fingers. "Your father wanted you to learn this from me when love felt stronger than shock. I failed that timing." She unfolded the pages. As she read, color drained. Tears welled but did not fall. They clung to lashes like prisoners afraid of open air. After minutes that felt like cardiac eons, she whispered, "So, I'm not your daughter?" I clasped my hands to still their shaking. Blood says no. Every memory, every lullaby, every PTA meeting says otherwise. I chose you, Sandra, every single day. She stood abruptly, pacing. Why hide it? Why let me worship a lie? Because people judge addiction harsher than death. We feared they'd tether your worth to Lila's mistakes. We planned to tell you when you had roots sturdy enough to hold this storm. She hugged herself. Miles said you invented the turkey drama for attention. He said you always turned days about me into days about you. Her voice cracked. I was ready to believe him. A silent earthquake ruptured between us. I inhaled. "I'm sorry for every bruise my silence birthed." I slid a small flash drive across the coffee table. Home videos, your first steps, ballet recitals, Calvin narrating, proof that love saturated our years. My gaze caught hers. I can't force forgiveness, only offer truth. Footsteps thudded on the porch. Miles was back early. Panic flickered in Sandra's eyes. She tucked the letter into her sweater pocket. "He can't know yet," she murmured. "Let me breathe first." I rose to leave. At the door, she caught my wrist. "Mom." The word wobbled, but it was Mom. "Thank you for choosing me." A tear finally escaped, carving glistening mercy down her cheek. Miles's key rattled. I slipped out the side gate, heart pounding with fragile hope. Stay close, because one hidden truth rarely travels alone. Miles's reaction, and the price he demands for silence, will test just how strong chosen love can be when biology and greed collide. Miles's SUV screeched to a halt before I reached the corner. The driver's side door flew open and he strode toward me. jaw pulsing like a ticking grenade. Evening shadows stretched his figure into something wolfish. I clutched my purse where Calvin's empty envelope lay, forcing calm into my steps. "Thought you'd sneak in more drama?" he hissed, eyes darting to the house. "Sandra's barely holding herself together." "I came to tell the truth," I answered, voice even, "a truth you chose to twist." He laughed, dry, brittle. "Twist?" "I protected her from an ambush." He stepped closer. I smelled stale coffee and whatever arrogance wears as cologne. "But maybe I can still protect her. For a price." I stiffened. "What do you want?" He pulled a folded sheet from his jacket, some legalistic mock-up. "You'll sign over that life insurance payout Calvin left you, $50,000. Call it reparations for deceit." He thrust a pen forward. "Do that, and I'll keep your sordid family secrets off social media." The audacity punched breath from my lungs. "You'd ransom my husband's death benefit?" He shrugged. "Sandra's reputation matters. Sponsors for her design blog won't like addict ancestry." The moonlight caught a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead. "Think of it as buying silence." Rage and fear battled in my chest. "I will not be blackmailed." My voice sounded surprisingly steel. "Sandra deserves the truth unfiltered." His eyes narrowed. "Then brace for headlines." He turned back to the SUV. "Tick-tock, Marcy." He screeched away, tires spitting gravel. My heart hammered, but not from arrhythmia. This beat thrummed resolve. Sandra had to know her husband's threat before he poisoned the next 20 years. I spent nightfall drafting an email to Sandra. Concise details, screenshot of Miles's agreement, a plea read before reacting. I hovered over send, but digital revelations felt too cold. She deserved warmth, eye contact, and Miles could intercept email. I deleted draft, opting for dawn-light courage. Sleep again fragmented, this time by nightmares of news anchors blaring, mother's lies exposed. I awoke before sunrise, palms damp. Tea kettle hissed like a warning. I pulled Calvin's flash drive from my purse. If stories could speak, I needed theirs. Plugged into my laptop, the folder labeled Lila's song opened first. Grainy footage, Lila cradling infant Sandra, humming a lullaby off-key, eyes bright despite hospital pallor. My throat tightened. Next file, Calvin clutching toddler Sandra at a county fair, sticky cotton candy in her curls, him narrating, "That's my fearless girl, not our, my." The weight of his love pressed tears from my eyes. I copied every video onto a new drive, slipped it into a padded envelope with a handwritten note. "Watch these before Miles edits your memories. Love always chooses you." Clara agreed to drop the package in Sandra's mailbox while strolling her dog. Miles would overlook neighborly routine. Noon found me at the thrift boutique, steam pressing donated blouses. My manager, Tanya, peered over racks. "Phone for you. Says urgent." My stomach clenched. Sandra's voice trembled through the receiver. "Mom, can you come over?" Alone. An hour later, I stood on her porch again. The door opened to hushed tension. No scented candles, no faux autumn leaves, just bare surfaces and the faint hum of the heater. Sandra held the flash drive, eyes red. "I watched them." She inhaled shakily. "Miles never showed me this side of the story." She gestured toward the kitchen. Zoe colored quietly at the island, headphones on. "He's gone to his mother's for the night. We need to talk." We settled on the sofa. She gripped a throw pillow like armor. "He admitted threatening you. I told him I won't be bought with hush money. He said you'd poison my brand if I stayed loyal to you." Tears spilled. "Mom, I'm sorry. I let resentment blind me." I reached for her hand. Resentment thrives in silence. We both watered it, me by hiding the past, you by never asking why. She nodded, shoulders shaking. I feel like the ground keeps shifting. It can steady, I whispered. But honesty must be our carpenter, she exhaled. I want a DNA test just to know, but regardless, you're my mother. Her voice steadied. Miles said if I choose you, he'll publish everything plus rumors about Lila. I told him, do your worst. Truth stands on its own legs. He left. Relief rushed, quickly chased by concern. Are you safe? I changed the locks. A faint smile. And called an attorney. Emotional abuse qualifies in custody negotiations. We talked until dusk, painted peach on the blinds. Plans formed. Family therapy, legal safeguards, explaining to Zoe and Patrick in age-safe words. Sandra pulled me into a trembling hug. Thanksgiving was the ugliest day, she murmured, but maybe it broke the shell over something precious. As I drove home, streetlights flicked on one by one like milestones of a path just beginning, yet I knew Miles would not retreat quietly. He'd weaponized digital platforms, maybe financial sabotage. Could my 62-year-old heart survive another siege? Miles launched his counterattack at exactly 3:07 on a rain-slick Monday, timing it for a maximum midday scroll. My phone buzzed with an avalanche of alerts. Group texts from church friends, co-workers, even Zoe's Girl Scout troop leader, each forwarding the same Facebook post plastered with screaming capitals. Beware of the woman who stole a baby and lied for 30 years. The real story of Marceline Davenport's motherhood exposed. Share so the truth can't be buried again. Below the headline sat side-by-side photos, an unflattering screenshot from my Thanksgiving collapse and a grainy mugshot of Lila, taken months before her overdose. Miles had stamped them with lurid arrows as if evil were visible in pixels. He even dug up the pawn receipt for Calvin's class ring, twisting it into proof that I'd sold family treasures to fund hush money, not a mortgage. The post was racking shares by the 100, hashtags like baby thief and addict blood trending against my name. My hand shook so hard I nearly dropped the kettle. For a heartbeat, I felt the turkey nausea return, acid, dizzying. Breathe, Marcy. You have beta blockers now and backbone you didn't have 2 weeks ago. Sandra called first, voice tight, furious. He leaked sealed juvenile records and Lila's rehab reports. That's illegal. Breath hitched. And he published Zoe's photo, Mom. Zoe. In the background, I heard a little girl crying, the wail of innocence recoiling from parental crossfire. I'm on my way, I promised, grabbing my coat. Behind me, the tea kettle shrilled like distant artillery. I silenced it, swallowed 2 white pills, and drove into a gray soup of drizzle. Sandra's living room felt different, less showroom, more battlefield headquarters. Boxes of Miles's belongings sat by the door, taped and labeled office, gym junk, egos. Zoe sniffled on the couch, clinging to a well-worn teddy. Patrick stacked blocks beside her, blissfully unaware. Sandra paced, phone pressed to ear, attorney on speed dial. He's violating privacy, slandering an elderly woman, posting minors' images. Yes, get the restraining order expedited, she barked. She hung up, cheeks blotched with stress. Mom, I'm so sorry. I touched her arm. He's showing the world who he is. Let him, she exhaled. Damage control. People think you kidnapped me. Let's counter with facts, not fury, I said. My mind whirred. How to flood lies with light. Zoe tugged my sleeve. Grandma, why does Daddy say you're bad? Tears glistened. The question sliced deeper than any headline. I knelt to eye level, heart bracing. Sometimes grown-ups fight with words that hurt. I love you, and that's the truest thing. I kissed her forehead. Will you help me bake cookies later? Truth tastes better with chocolate chips. She nodded, a small brave soldier. Sandra watched, tears spilling. Mom, if he drags this to court, Lila's past will be dissected. I barely remember Auntie. I led her to the kitchen table cluttered with legal pads. Then we own the narrative. We speak Lila's truth with grace, not shame. Addiction is illness, not inheritance. Outside, tires screeched. Miles's black Audi idling at the curb. He stepped out holding a tripod and ring light, a live stream assault. My pulse stuttered. Sandra gasped, running to bolt the front door. Through stained glass, we saw him plant the tripod on the lawn, adjusting angle toward the house. A neighbor yelled, "Take your circus elsewhere," but he flashed a grin at his phone screen. "Mom, he's broadcasting to half the county," Sandra whispered. Gripping her shoulders, I felt terror transmute into something fiercer, maternal resolve. Then let's give viewers the ending he didn't script. I marched to the bay window, drew curtains wide, and stared square into his camera lens. With slow, deliberate motion, I pressed my palm to the glass, heart height, and held it there. Miles's smugness faltered as chat comments scrolled faster than he could moderate. "Who's that?" "She looks crushed. Why film Granny like she's prey?" Sandra appeared beside me, hand atop mine, eyes glossy but unafraid. She lifted Calvin's flash drive pendant from her neck, bright silver catching drizzle dim light, and pointed to it, mouthing, "Receipts?" Viewers exploded. "Show the vids, prove her love, stop exploiting your family." Miles's confidence cracked. He yanked the phone, voice rising. "Don't fall for their pity play. She kidnapped—" A cruiser rolled up, blue light strobing rain droplets. Clara's earlier call to her friend in the sheriff's office bore fruit. Deputies approached, papers in hand. Restraining order, served live. The comment feed erupted in schadenfreude. Miles's face drained color as he stuttered objections. Deputies escorted him to the sidewalk. No arrest, yet, but the image told a story more potent than any post. Bully muzzled by law. Back inside, Sandra collapsed into a chair, sobbing relief. I brewed chamomile, adding honey like balm. "The internet's memory is elephantine," I said softly, "but so is its sense of justice when given proof." I opened my laptop, uploaded 2 short clips, Lila singing Lullaby and Calvin's Fairground narration. Caption, "Here's the truth Miles Archibald omitted." By nightfall, my upload dwarfed his smear campaign, shares laced with empathy instead of outrage. Chosen love trending worldwide, yet as I tucked Zoe into bed, a new tremor rippled my chest, lighter like an echo but unmistakable. The day's adrenaline taxed my recovering heart. I sat on the hallway bench, breathing slow. Sandra rushed over. "Mom, hospital!" "Not yet," I whispered, smile faint. "Just need rest. We've won a battle, not the war." The restraining order papers hadn't cooled in Miles's hands before he scrambled for a new weapon. By sunrise, his smear post vanished, deleted during the night, but not before someone scraped every comment. At 7:03 a.m., a fresh headline lit my newsfeed. Local bankers suspended amid cyber harassment claims. His firm wanted none of his circus. I allowed myself a single breath of victory, too soon. By noon, Clara rang, voice quaking. "Marcy, check your bank app." I opened mine, savings balance, $0.87. Checking, locked. A red banner flashed, fraud investigation hold. Shock iced my spine. Clara's too. Her mortgage with the same bank also frozen. Miles's long fingers still prowled the system. Sandra burst through my apartment door minutes later, hair unbrushed, pajamas tucked into rain boots. "He emptied our joint account into crypto overnight," she choked, waving screenshots. "Claimed it was marital assets preservation." She slumped into a chair, eyes hollow. "I thought paper orders could stop him. They're just paper." I steadied her hands. Paper may burn, but digital footprints cook hotter. I dialed Marcus, our attorney. He promised emergency injunctions, media pressure, but banks move slower than scandal, he admitted. Stay cashlight a few days. Sandra exhaled raggedly. Kids need lunch money today. I fetched a cookie jar where Calvin's habit of tipping servers in cash had left crumpled 20s. We counted $46 in a Canadian coin. Enough for grilled cheese week, I joked. She almost smiled. Yet under hot resolve pulsed cold arrhythmia. Each new stress jolted my chest like faulty wiring, warning that my body's grace period was closing. But I refused to surrender life's steering wheel to fear, or to Miles. That evening, Sandra's lawyer friend hacked kindness into action. A public GoFundMe titled Truth Over Toxic Power. Within hours, donations eclipsed 10 grand, spurred by people who'd followed our video clips. Comments bloomed with solidarity. One read, "My ex froze my accounts too. Fight on, Mama Marcy." The swell of strangers' empathy warmed but stunned. Sandra squeezed my hand. For once, the internet's loud for the right side. We were sipping chamomile when Zoe screamed upstairs. We sprinted to find her staring at her bedroom window. A brick lay on the carpet, glass teeth glittering around it. Tape held a note, "You'll lose more than money." Sandra paled. Sirens answered our frantic 911 call within minutes. Officers photographed footprints in the mulch, size 11 dress shoes, brand matching Miles's credit card records per deputy's hunch. While they dusted for prints, Patrick toddled in, asking why the bad man liked rocks. My heart clenched harder than any angina. Police ushered us to Clara's house overnight. Wind rattled gutters like dice, each clatter sparking Zoe's flinches. Past midnight, I tucked her in Clara's guest room and hummed Lila's off-key lullaby. Tears soaked her stuffed bunny, but she fell asleep gripping my sleeve. Downstairs, Sandra filed emergency modification for full custody, citing endangerment. Marcus texted, "Judge will hear it tomorrow at 9. At dawn, a patrol unit retrieved Miles. Caught on neighbor's ring cam, lobbing the brick and muttering threats. Arrested for violating the restraining order. Cyber theft under investigation. Child endangerment tacked on. It felt climactic, yet unease thrummed. Desperate men escalate when cornered. The custody hearing moved fast. Miles, still in holding, appeared via video. Orange jumpsuit clashing with his forced smile. The judge reviewed footage, financial logs, and my cardiologist's affidavit describing stress-induced tachycardia from harassment. His gavel dropped. Temporary sole custody to Sandra, freeze on marital accounts, no contact with minors. Gasps echoed from courtroom benches. Miles's grin shattered. Eyes flared hate as the screen blanked. Outside cameras flashed, reporters begged comments. Sandra spoke steady. "The truth isn't trending, it's permanent." She wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "We're going home to bake cookies." Headlines pivoted. Mother-daughter duo triumph over financial abuse. But triumphs bleed cost. That night, while mixing batter, I felt a violent flutter, a bird trapped under my sternum, then stabbing heat spread to jaw. The whisk slipped from my fingers. Sandra caught me as knees buckled, screaming for Clara to call an ambulance. In the blur of sirens, I whispered, "Finish the cookies. Tell Zoe Grandma's okay." Darkness folded like a curtain. Hospital ceilings echo every fear you whisper to them. I opened my eyes to their sterile prophecy, acoustic tiles freckled by fluorescent glare, and heard machines arguing in stubborn beeps about whether I deserved another sunrise. A nurse hovered, soft-voiced. "Mrs. Davenport, you're in Brookshire Regional. We placed a stent in the right coronary artery. Successful. Rest easy." Rest easy? My ribcage felt stapled, but then Sandra's silhouette blurred in, mascara streaked like war paint. She clasped my hand so tightly electrodes protested. Mom, you scared the daylight out of us. Her words quavered between relief and terror. I tried to smile. Told you. Cookies take stamina. My voice rasped sandpaper. A cardiologist arrived, middle-aged with kind crow's feet. He explained arrhythmia spiraled into acute coronary syndrome, but quick intervention prevented extensive damage. Stress is gasoline on a smoldering heart, he said, eyeing Sandra. Protect her from fires. Sandra nodded as if signing an oath. 48-hour ICU watch followed. Each beep, each cuff inflation reminded me life now billed by the heartbeat. Yet between medication fog, blessed news slipped in. Miles's bail denied. Prosecutor added felony embezzlement once audit traced missing bank funds. Online supporters raised triple our frozen savings. Zoe mailed a crayon card that read, "Grandma's heart is stronger than bricks." I taped it to the IV pole. On discharge morning, Sandra wheeled me past the nurses' station. Reporters lingered near elevators. Hospital security blocked them, but I glimpsed headlines on their tablets. Banker's cruelty lands mother in ICU. Public sympathy, once fickle, now roared. Yet I felt strangely weightless. Fame a vapor against mortality's concrete. Outside, crisp December air kissed my lungs. Clara's minivan ferried us home. I expected Zoe's squeals, Patrick's blocks, but the house greeted us empty, hushed. Sandra explained, "Kids are with Clara tonight," doctor said calm. She helped me to the couch, blankets tucked with surgical precision, then brewed lemon balm tea. We sat in the amber glow of a single lamp, silence thick as quilt batting. Finally she spoke. "I kept vigil, Mom. Listened to monitors all night. It hit me. If you'd gone, my last memory would have been you collapsing because of my mess." Tears brimmed. "I'm done letting poison near us. No more Miles, no more secrets." I squeezed her fingers, pulse steady beneath beta blockers. Truth cut us open, but it also stitched. She sniffed. "I filed for divorce this morning. My lawyer's pushing for full restitution, and I scheduled weekly therapy for me, for the kids." A determined exhale. "We're planting new roots." I breathed gratitude, but something still prickled, a loose thread needing pull. "Sandra, we never spoke about Thanksgiving's spoiled food. Was that Miles?" She winced. "He planned it as a message. Explained later he wanted you too queasy to stay long so I wouldn't fall back under your martyr spell. I'm sorry I doubted you." Her voice cracked. "I was complicit, ignored the smell because I was desperate for his approval." Pain flickered behind my sternum, emotional, not physical. "Desperation breeds blindness," I whispered. "But now we see." She nodded, eyes glinting steel. "And we keep seeing. I want Aunt Lila's story told with dignity, not shame." She lifted her tablet, showing a web page template for a blog titled Roots and Wings. Mission: share stories of adoption, chosen families, addiction recovery. "Will you co-author?" she asked. My throat thickened. "Only if we include Calvin's Fairground video as episode 1. We spend the next hours outlining posts. Lila's folk song lullaby, accompanied by resources for opioid-addicted parents. An explainer on financial abuse, featuring anonymized reader submissions. A video of Zoe baking honesty cookies under my parchment paper tutelage. Laughter bubbled where tears had soaked days prior. At dusk, Sandra carried in a small fir tree, pine scent, bright as hope. She strung fairy lights, each bulb mirrored in the window pane like stars arriving to witness rebirth. As she fixed the topper, I clasped the pearl brooch at my collar, Calvin's last Christmas gift, and felt its cool reassurance. Yet I knew battles remained. Courtroom testimonies, social media backlash cycles, nights when Zoe might cry for a father now repainted villain. My heart's clock ticked louder under those prospects. But another sound rose stronger, the steady cadence of chosen love, no longer silent, no longer afraid. Courtroom 17 smelled faintly of varnish and vengeance. I sat in the front row, heart pacing a patient, medicated rhythm, clutching Zoe's crayon card like a talisman. Sandra, flanked by Marcus and two domestic violence advocates, exhaled steady, deliberate breaths, each one a vow never to flinch again. A bailiff called the case. State of Illinois versus Bradley Miles Archibald on charges of cyber harassment, financial exploitation, violation of protective order, and child endangerment. Miles shuffled in, shackled, orange jumpsuit a far cry from his usual tailored armor. His hair, once slicked to perfection, now clung in damp strands. The wolf had tasted its own cage. Cameras clicked. The judge, silver-haired and no-nonsense, peered over spectacles. "Mr. Archibald, you understand the gravity?" Miles attempted a smile, but it twitched. The state presented first, grainy ring cam footage of the brick, banking logs linking IP addresses to midnight transfers, the viral live stream showing deputies serving him on Sandra's lawn. Each exhibit landed like a gavel before the gavel. Then Marcus introduced a surprise witness list. Community bankers revealing Miles's history of creative adjustments, quietly settled to protect the institution's brand. Gasps rippled. Reporters' pens scribbled greedily. At recess, Miles's court-appointed lawyer approached us, offering a plea. Guilty on 2 felonies, restitution, and a public apology in exchange for a reduced sentence. Sandra met my gaze. I read the question behind her eyes. Does Mercy still have a seat at our table? And simply squeezed her hand. She turned to the lawyer. "I'll accept," she said, "but the apology must include my Aunt Lila's name, framed with respect, not scandal. He stole her dignity for clicks. He can help return it." Minutes later, back on record, Miles swallowed hard and faced the microphone. "I, Bradley Miles Archibald, accept responsibility." His voice cracked as he recited terms. When he reached the clause about Lila, he hesitated, then continued. "I exploited sensitive history regarding Lila Davenport's struggle with addiction. Her story deserves compassion, not weaponization. I am sorry to her memory and to those I harmed." The words sounded rehearsed, but in that chamber they became bricks repositioned into accountability. The judge accepted the plea. 2 years in state prison, 5 years probation, full restitution plus damages. Social media accounts ordered deleted. A murmur of relief swept our bench, yet I felt no triumph. Only a soft, solemn settling, like snow over trampled ground. Outside, microphones thrust forward. Sandra lifted her phone, playing a clip we had cued. Lila, young, bright-eyed, crooning her lullaby, a banner beneath reading, "Addiction is illness, not identity." Reporters fell silent as the sweet, imperfect melody filled winter air. When it ended, Sandra spoke. "My mother taught me chosen love. My aunt taught me that brokenness doesn't cancel worth. Today we begin telling both stories in full." Applause, raw and spontaneous, bubbled from bystanders. That evening, we posted the first entry on Roots and Wings. How Thanksgiving broke and built us. Within hours, shares outpaced even Miles's former smear. Comments poured in. "My father stole my savings. Your courage gives me hope." I hid my birth story 25 years. Time to speak. Zoe helped moderate, replying with gifts of dancing acorns. Patrick, too young to type, offered sticker approvals. We baked a fresh batch of honesty cookies, drizzling caramel into little heart shapes. When the doorbell rang, I expected another bouquet from supporters. Instead, a delivery driver handed me 2 manila envelopes. One marked Bank of Brookshire, funds restored, the other state registry, name change confirmation. Inside the second lay new birth certificates for Zoe and Patrick, replacing Archibald with Davenport at Sandra's request. Tears blurred the print. At last, no shadow surname hovered over bedtime stories. Around midnight, blue light from my laptop cast gentle halos across the living room. I typed a final post for the night. If you're still awake, tell me the hour on your clock and the city that cradles your dreams. Remember, secrets demand interest. Pay them with truth while you still have breath to barter. Good night from Brookshire, 2203 and beating steady. A chorus of timestamps blinked back. 0203 Madrid, 1503 Sydney, 0803 Nairobi. The world was wide awake together. I closed the lid, breathing deep. My heart hummed. Not frantic, not frail, but tested steel. Sandra draped a blanket over my shoulders. Mom, we turned the worst Thanksgiving into a beginning. I smiled at the fir tree glowing in the corner. Maybe gratitude isn't a day. It's the act of chiseling truth free even when it bleeds. Outside, first snowflakes floated, soft punctuation to our hard-earned sentence. And somewhere, beyond prison walls and viral threads, Miles would face nights colder than ours, but perhaps even he might one day learn that control cannot compete with confession. For us, tomorrow promised school runs, therapy sessions, and blog drafts, but also cinnamon steam, lullabies reborn, and the quiet miracle of an ordinary heartbeat under extraordinary light.